drew the gecko, and you know how much I like my gecko. It reminds me of being home in Spain. Let's just get rid of this. We don't need this bitmap image anymore. So I'm going to highlight it, clicking on it with the left mouse button, and I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard. Okay, we got two here. We've got two geckos. Let's give the gecko a little bit of colour. So we've got one green, but I want to show you a different tool now for filling. So we have got here our colour palettes down the side there with our standard CMYK default palette that comes as a default with CorelDraw, and I've also got on the side there loaded on a colour palette which is a Pantone one. We can of course just quite simply add more palettes in by going to Windows, Colour Palettes, and then selecting whatever you want. Okay, you can import palettes as well if someone sent you one. I just normally stick to the CMYK. It's pretty much the basic one that we need. Okay, let's have a look at maybe doing some fills rather than a solid colour. So let's click on the gecko and over to the left hand side to your interactive fill tool. Let's have a little look. If it's not showing, if it's showing as a mesh tool, that's because you need to click on the little fly out triangle in the bottom of the tool, and you'll get the fly out and you'll select interactive fill tool, or you could press the shortcut key as signified there on that as G. Okie dokie. So I'm going to go interactive tool. Now at the top above your drawing window, you can see that we can get rid of the colour by pressing no fill, which is the same as going over to the colour docker and pressing no fill. We can colour in a uniform colour, which is a solid colour, which is exactly the same as colouring from your palette here. Okay, as the blue is selected, you can also use the palette from here. So by clicking on the little drop down on the fill colour, you can select your CMYK palette. It's exactly the same as the palette over on the right hand side. You can also drop down, you can go into other particular spot colours, process colours, which is your Pantone colours. Again, it's what we've got loaded up over this side at the moment. It's got to be green, I'm afraid. But I might want to actually have this green, exactly this green here. So what I would do, if I had a particular component like a bitmap on here that I was trying to match my gecko with, I could click on the pipette tool there, the color match tool, which is also down here on the bottom right hand panel of this color palette. So this color match tool, I can go over there and click on that, and voila, this gecko is now the same color. I know that it was actually this green already, but I'm just trying to prove a point. Okay, I can go back to here and I can change some variables. If I know the RGB color, I know the RGB color for one shirt away is 0, 92, 185. So I basically 185 and 92, and that is actually on the CMYK. I'm not looking at what I'm doing, sorry. 0, tab, 92, 92, and tab down 185. That's going to give me my blue colour. So that's on the standard, sorry, that's on the standard RGB colour. I'm going back over, selecting the interactive tool. So that's just colouring in solid colours and palettes. Now the next one along is a fountain fill. A fountain fill is like a gradient. So what we'll do, we'll click on that, and you can see straight off that you've got a solid colour position moving across to a transparent position. So if I click on there, you can see that. And that shows you how much transparency there is. So now if I move this into the center, you can see that around this area there is more colour. Okay, so if I go back to 0 there, it's a solid colour at this point, solid colour back, but as it moves towards, let's say, his head, it becomes more and more gradient. So there's a gradient fill coming out. Let's go back. I'm going to just click on that, which is a colour select tool, and go over to the green because I want it to be green. It's quite, I don't like that, the fact he's that colour. Now let's just say, for argument's sake, that I don't want it to go to a clear. I want it to go to a dark green. Okay, so I'm going to double click on that area. I'm going to go back to my colour palette tool. I actually want to go back to my standard. Let's close those ones back down. I don't want any colour matching. I want to go back to my standard CMYK palette, and I'm going to select dark green. Okay, and it's just given me a very slight gradient from the light green to the dark green as we move across the gecko to his head. Let's just have a little look. I might well even be able to change that a little bit darker. Yeah, so there was a colour palette down here. It's got slightly darker as well. Let's just double click on that. I might even want that darker again. So I could go in and I could tweak that using either this tool here, which is your colour wheel sort of window. That looks better. Look, I can move this out of the way. I'm happy with that. Yeah, he's looking pretty cool. So the light's just catching my gecko. He's still pretty flat. He's still pretty one-dimensional. That's cool for a moment. We're just working through that interactive fill tool. Let's also now try something a little bit different. So we had no fill, top left-hand corner, if you're not with me, no fill, solid fill, or uniform fill. And then we had the fountain fill, which is a gradient. And this one here, this is cool, vector pattern fill. So let's click on that. Now you're talking. Now you're talking. So we've got lots of different options there for our gecko. So we can bring in vector patterns and we can mess around with them. Let's move along one more to the texture fill, to pattern texture. And you can see there we've got lots and lots of different patterns, and it's using the components of the color there to change our our gecko to I don't know what he's doing there, but he's more like a chameleon now than a gecko, and you can change obviously all sorts of components with that as well. Let's go back over to see if we've got like rather than that, let's go to a texture fill. There we go. And you can add in all sorts of different textures. There's so many different things you can play around with. Great for making your own brand, like of t-shirts or something like that, which is cool. What I might do on this video, let's just add in some text, just to say that we were going to, I'm going to get rid of this gecko here, CMA. So clicking on it with the left mouse button and pressing delete. So to move the gecko, I'm clicking on the gecko and I'm clicking down with the left mouse button and I'm moving him around. So let's just go back to the fountain fill and let's just find something a little bit more funky, psychedelic gecko. That looks quite cool. If I wanted to put an outline on him, I would go back to my select tool and I would right click on one of these colours over here to give me a coloured outline if you really wanted that. Okay, so let's put in some text around the gecko. So to follow a text path where you'd want to put something around an object, you would basically start off by giving it a path to follow. And so, for argument's sake, let's just say that we wanted the word lizards to be arched across this gecko. So what I'm going to do is roughly find a midpoint on this gecko. It doesn't matter at the moment. And I'm going to press the Control key down and sorry, I did that completely wrong key. So I'm using it. So I press the Control key down, and as I drag, it is going to make this circle a circle and not an egg shape. And I'm going to just bring that circle and reshape it right the way around the outside of the gecko. Okay, this is quite a cool tool, and it's something you're going to use a lot. Okay, and then we'll go on to an advanced feature with it just after. So let's go back to the text tool on the left-hand side. This is F8, and I'm going to come across and I'm going to click down once. And what I want to do here is I want to add in the word lizard. Okay, and let's increase the size of that, and let's position that over the top of our circle. Okay, now before we do that, we could change the font, or we could actually change the font afterwards. It doesn't really matter. Let's just give it a different font so it looks a little bit different. And let's just say that the font wants to be about this high. So I'm going to, with the mouse button, I'm going to click once on the text, I'm going to press the Shift key down, and I'm going to press once on the circle. Then I'm going to come up to the Tools bar at the top, the menu bar, and I'm going to find the Text tab, and I'm going to move down to Fit Text to Path. As soon as I do that, boom, that's it. It's attached itself. And you can see straight off that it's got this little red dot there. Now what I can do is I can zoom in on that red dot, and I can pick it, and I can move that round inside, outside that circle. It doesn't have to be on that line, over the line, or anywhere you want it to be. If you wanted it to start, let's just say you wanted it to start there. Let's put it there. Put it wherever you want. And the font is actually editable at this point as well. Once you release it from this circle and we break it away, you will have problems with that actually keeping that path. You will have to re-engage it to a path. Okay, just be aware of that. Okay, so we've got the word lizard, and I want to space it out. So I want it to start here and I want it to finish here, but I want the words to be spread out more. So I don't know if you remember that with this tool, we did have, with this text tool, when we did the north face text, we used the shape tool. So I can go over and I can click on this font, and you see there again, it's got the spacing tools have popped up. It will work a little bit different to something that isn't basically just normal text on screen, because it is fixed to a path, so it is going to try and do a few strange things, but that's fine. So we move it in and out, we get the spacing that we want, and we're going to go back to the pick tool. I'm going to grab the little red dot and I'm going to slide that right round. And I want it to start at about 9 o'clock and finish at about 1 o'clock there. So, and that is giving me the word lizard around the outside. Clearly you probably don't want that circle, but once you're happy with it, you can right click to get rid of it. So if you wanted to send this to your customer as a proof beforehand, I would suggest you do that and not remove the circle, because if he comes back and says I want a different font, then it's going to be a little bit of a pain. You'll have to go back in and redo it. But you know, he might well be happy with that font. It's not too bad for a quick logo, but let's go into some more in-depth text path tools on the next video.